Many thanks to BAFTA for again gifting us this wonderful venue for this evening. It's much appreciated. At the risk of falling into the same trap as Greg Norman, the golfer, when he was talking at an award ceremony and said, "I owe a lot to my parents, especially my mother and father," I do need to thank several people. Firstly, our distinguished award judges for their wisdom and their support. To Clotilde Redfern, the charity's director, for her strong and stable leadership. And so much else besides. Thanks to Phoebe Hall, our acting head of awards and events, ably supported by Lizia and Jennifer. Between them, they've attracted more than 350 entries this year on a budget smaller than the cost of a pret-a-manger sandwich, so well done to them. Phoebe is covering the maternity leave of Leanne Di Maturco, who recently gave birth to her daughter Estella, now 7 months old. So she's been around longer than most Hollywood marriages. This year's awards sit in the shadow of the terrible events in Manchester and now in London. And at awards time last year, we had the shocking news that Jo Cox MP had been murdered by a political extremist. Jo was well respected and liked by many people in the aid agencies and broadcasters that generously support One World Media. But I can assure you that the mutual understanding and tolerance that Jo Cox so robustly championed sits right at the heart of One World Media's ethos. Indeed, in the last year, aid workers have become increasingly targets for violence. There's been 10 murdered this spring in South Sudan alone. They join international journalists as being increasingly at risk. In 2016, according to Reporters Without Borders, 74 journalists were killed, most targeted deliberately. And we salute and we support those men and women who put themselves in harm's way to bring the rest of us news from some of the world's most dangerous places. Of course, nearer to home, independent journalism is also under increased pressure. Just look at the number of journalists arrested and voices silenced in Turkey. And I'm not sure if it was a journalist or a hairdresser who scribbled the graffiti I saw in South London, which simply read, "Donald Trump," and then underneath, "We shall overcome." It wasn't so funny when a report of the Public News Service recently asked the US Health Secretary a question about Obamacare and was arrested, handcuffed, and charged with disrupting government processes. One World Media is a vital crucible for ideas and debate about international journalism through discussions, masterclasses, and screenings. Particular thanks to the EBRD for hosting so many of those events. Tonight, we highlight the best-in-class examples of reporting on global issues like refugees, poverty, climate change, and corruption. But we don't just reward the excellence of today. One World Media is also about tomorrow. We are a key educator of the next generation of international reporters and filmmakers, training young journalists in the skills needed to report from the developing world. The One World Production Fund, generously supported by Sky News, Vestra Wealth, I didn't realise, I thought they closed the Hammersmith Pally. I didn't realise they'd moved it to BAFTA. Generously supported by Sky News, Vestra Wealth, and the Harold Hyam Wingate Foundation, grows more ambitious by the year. 18 bursaries are awarded to emerging filmmaking and journalistic talent, all supported by mentoring from Flora Gregory. I'm absolutely clear that the work of One World Media, its championing of the best in truthful and independent reporting about the global South, is more critical than ever. In an era where reporting lines have become increasingly blurred, One World has an important role to play. Just look at the inexorable rise of fake news. Who would have thought that teenagers in Macedonia would have been pumping out deliberately false stories on an industrial scale? That's exactly why our training programs for young journalists are so important. We're incredibly grateful to all our sponsors without whom we could do nothing. We're also grateful to all our in-kind sponsors who are named in the programme. and our pro bono voiceover artists, Nikki Beatty, Henry Bonsu, Idi Nesta, and Mary Ann Ohota. One World Media punches above its weight, but with additional financial support, we could do so much more of our crucial work. Next year, it's our 30th birthday, our 30th anniversary. So if your organisation has any spare cash or even unused air miles, now would be a really good time to help us.